Hi there. It's been a couple weeks since I posted a video on my personal channel, and maybe on the collab channel as well. I found myself kind of low energy. I tend to shoot these videos late at night because the light from my windows here tends to darken the actual image of me, even though you can probably hear me still just fine. And that really is the point of these videos, to hear what I'm saying rather than actually looking at me. I tend to shoot them late at night, which means that there's either I shoot them basically after work on a night when I'm working, which means I'm home at about 12:30, and then I sit up and shoot a video after a day of work. That's like not the best thing. Or it's on one of my days off, like today. But the last few weeks I've just found myself kind of low energy, and so not really wanting to do that. But I only have one night off this week as opposed to the usual two, because I'm working an extra day tomorrow. So I thought, if I'm going to make a video this week, it better be tonight. So it's around 2:45 in the morning. But my energy is not as low as it could be because the previous night I worked overnight. I work at a hotel, and I started around 11 p.m. on the Sunday night, and then ended around 7 a.m. Monday morning, and then I come home and I sleep for 6 hours or so. So my day is, not really half over or anything like that. I'll be going to bed soon, but yeah, I have a very short Monday because I sleep, and then I have basically the late afternoon and evening. There are a number of videos that I've been meaning to respond to for a while. First and foremost, Ian has done 2 chat videos that I haven't chimed in on, and I wanted to do that. His number 2 chat is basically, how do you pick from your own collection? On any given day or night, when you want to watch a movie from your own collection, how do you pick one? And I really don't. I don't watch movies from my collection often because I'm either busy watching a television show, or catching up on my YouTube videos, or going to the theater to see something new, or getting movies from the library. Right now I've got Sam Rockwell and Anna Kendrick and Mr. Right, which I just finished today, and Helen Mirren and Aaron Paul and Alan Rickman and I Me Sky, which I watched a couple days ago, and this fun little thriller with Nicolas Cage and Elijah Wood called The Trust. I get these from the library, and they're free. And I get them for a week apiece, and so at any given moment I'll have, a pile of DVDs from the library, some of which are due in a couple days, some of which I just borrowed and aren't due for a week, that I need to get through. And all those are due back tomorrow, so I have to finish it. Which brings me to my next question. How big is your watch pile? But before I get to that, the movies that I have in my collection are all movies that I really like, and I've seen before, a couple of times at least. I just picked up basically a George Clooney 4-pack. They're selling them at 7-Eleven, which is a convenience store. Basically 4 movies in one package for $6. I'm like, that's quite a deal if you like the movies. They had one for Reese as well, but there was only one movie in that package that I actually wanted to keep. Clooney, however, had Michael Clayton, Ocean's 11, and one more, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but there were 3 of them in that 4-pack that I really liked, so I'm like, oh good, that's quite a deal, so I picked that up as well. So that's like a rare thing for me. I bought couple Marvel movies, and I'm planning on buying Civil War when it actually just comes out tomorrow, I think, on DVD. So I'll probably be picking that up tomorrow, maybe. Just stop by Barnes & Noble and see what the percentage off is. But yes, given that I've seen the movies in my collection several times a piece, and there are so many movies that I could see that I haven't yet, I tend to go with the ones I haven't seen versus the ones that I have. Now, I only have 60 movies in my collection. Really. Only about 60 movies. And so if you've got like thousands of movies in your collection, that choice has got to be a lot harder. But, my go-to movies to watch, just to sort of like, I feel like watching something that I have on hand, are usually either The Avengers or The Social Network. It used to be Batman Begins. I would watch that over and over and over again. And over the years, I'd had a particular movie in my collection I would just watch repeatedly just because I was so delighted by it at that time. But that's how I pick. What do I feel like? It's just like something that I usually just, I mean, there's movies in my collection that I think are great, but I haven't seen them in years because either A, I've seen them so many times, or B, they're not necessarily the ones that I like to rewatch over and over again. Some of them are gifts, and maybe I don't rewatch them a lot, although I like them. But movies in my own collection I don't watch that much. I have them on hand for when I want to see them, but I don't watch them a lot just because I've seen them so many times. So my watch pile consists of, one, a movie that I rented, or borrowed, I should say, from the library, which is an old movie from the 80s, a childhood favorite of mine. I watched like maybe the first half hour of this, and I really find it funny. It's a really funny movie. It just occurred to me today that John Badham is the director of this, and he also directed War Games, which is probably why Ali Sheedy got the lead role in this, alongside Steve Guttenberg. Really funny movie, and of course it's one of the few times I actually get to see it in widescreen, because for years I would watch my VHS off of cable, which was cropped severely. So that's good. I get a viewer request to review a movie on the collab channel I'm a part of, the Movie Reviewers 100. It's a Rennie Harlin film. Rennie Harlin directed Jackie Chan's latest action comedy called Skip Trace, and so I'm going to be doing a review of that, and it just so happens that I have another Rennie Harlin movie sitting around, unwatched by me, for months now, and that's this movie, The Covenant. I don't expect it to be great, but I thought as long as I'm reviewing Rennie Harlin's new movie, I might as well see this one too, make it a double feature, just because. So this one I have yet to see, and this one I have to finish, and so my watch pile is that high. Of course, once I buy Captain America Civil War, I'll be rewatching that again. Yeah, my watch pile, grows and shrinks every single week as I get movies from the library, then return them, and get more of them and return them. And plus I have TV shows, which I can on-demand and watch that. I'm watching Mr. Robot, of course, which is a really, really compelling show. And there'll be a new episode Wednesday, and I'll be definitely excited to see that. But there's more TV series, and so the DVDs, the movies, might actually end up taking kind of a back seat to new television shows that I'm interested in. Depends on how much I like them. So those are my two responses for Ian. Ryan Chattaway did a vlog recently which is talking about writing a screenplay treatment, and this is something that I've actually been working on for a few months now with not a lot of success. A good friend of mine asked me to write a script for a 10-page short movie that takes place in a hotel room between two characters. And the restrictions actually I find quite troubling, just because I can't introduce new characters, they can't go outside the hotel room, it has to be just the two of them, and something that's manageable on a small schedule and everything like that. And I've struggled with it for a while now. I don't know what kind of stuff you've been reading, Ryan, if you're watching, about screenplays, but I'm not really one to give advice on scripts, seeing as how I've written so few of them. But one thing that I have learned about scripts is that they basically are divided into 4 parts. Most good scripts are, or at least the well-structured ones are. You've got the first portion, and they're not equal portions depending on like the page count or the runtime, but they all sort of have the same parts. And the first part is that sort of you're introduced to the characters and establish what kind of world or life that they have, and then something happens, what they call the event, which spurs them into action. The purpose of any storytelling is to watch a character try and achieve some sort of objective. So this thing that happens to them, or just happens, and thus they are spurred into action to achieve an objective of some kind. And so the unfolding of the story is basically, will they achieve that objective or not? And the more clearly defined the objective is, the better, because you have a stronger story that way, rather than just some sort of vague thing that they want to do. Oftentimes there are 2 objectives in one. You have a short-term objective, which is something that enables the characters to achieve something, a long-term objective. Perhaps that long-term objective is something we don't actually see happen. It exists beyond the end of the storyline, but it's like the first steps towards something. That often happens, that characters, especially the main characters in scripts, make small changes in their lives even though it's like a big event, but as far as character growth goes, they don't like radically change their personality overnight. Supporting characters do change dramatically. Central characters, main characters tend to change in smaller but significant ways. At least that's how it usually goes. So the first part is establishing the world, and then something happens, and then you have the second and third parts, which are basically trying to achieve the objective. The first half, the second part basically involves them looking for ways to achieve the objective, and then the third part involves them finding one particular way to achieve the objective when all the other options have been eliminated. Either that or the objective itself changes from one thing to another. If you realize, oh, this objective is actually more important, it's more what I need to do or want to do. Okay, so you have the first, second, and third parts, and then the third part ends with what they call the low point, which is something bad happens, it looks like nothing is going to work out, all hope is lost, but then there's some new development, and the main character or characters figure out what they need to do in order to, cross the finish line, so to speak. You think of it like a race. And so that's when that last thing happens right there. I oftentimes think of Legally Blonde as like the template for a script. The first part you have Elle Woods, the main character. She's very happy. She's at her sorority. She's majoring in fashion design. And then the event that occurs is that her boyfriend tells her that he doesn't want to marry her. Instead, he wants to go to law school and become maybe a politician, and that means marrying someone who is more serious than her, like Selma Blair, and she says, I'll tell you what, I'm going to show you how serious I can be. I'll go to Harvard Law too and excel and be a great law student, and then you'll really want to marry me again. And then, so the second part is her basically going, how can I, succeed at law school? It's really, really tough. And then that point in the middle, between the second and third, is the point where she realizes that no matter how hard she tries, her boyfriend Warner, or ex-boyfriend Warner, is never really going to take her seriously enough, no matter how well she does in law school. So her objective changes, and now she wants to succeed and graduate Harvard and become a lawyer just for herself. Not for the sake of her relationship with Warner, but for her own sense of self-worth. And then she gets involved with the trial, and then her professor comes on to her, and she is disgusted by this, and she thinks about leaving, and that is the low point. And then the last section is where she rallies, and she becomes a sort of instrumental part of the legal team, and she uses her fashion knowledge to win the trial and everything like that. Spoiler alert, sorry. If you haven't seen Legally Blonde, it's like 15 years old. Anyway, that's like, the sort of very, very clear-cut structure of a script. That's sort of how it works. I don't know if that's helpful at all. It's something that I've learned, and it's something that I don't think about all the time, but I realized after watching your video, gee, I really ought to take the story that I'm supposed to be telling and break it down into these sections so that each section is manageable. Even though the thing's only 10 minutes long, it has to be a complete story. You got the setup, you got the problem, you got the payoff. That's how most mainstream screenplays work. Also in your vlog you mentioned John McGinley, which I'm a fan of his as well. I think he's really great, and I too discovered him watching Oliver Stone movies. The first one being Platoon, but he really had his chance to shine in Talk Radio, which is the movie he made, that Oliver Stone made between Wall Street and Born on the 4th of July. He is the guy in the booth. It's a radio talk show, basically, and he's the guy in the booth pushing all the buttons and sending the calls through to the host on the air. It's a nice big part for him. He's been in a lot of stuff. I've never really watched an episode of Scrubs. Maybe I've seen part of one, but yeah, I know John McGinley through Oliver Stone, as you do. And finally, Michael, Grade 1951, Michael wanted me to respond to a video that he did. He tagged me. The tag was for us to pick, those of us to respond, us to pick basically the most overhyped movie of the last 20 years, in our opinion. And so, counting from 1996, I could go, okay, 96, Independence Day, 97, Batman and Robin, 98, Godzilla, 99, Wild Wild West, 2000, Mission Impossible 2. I could probably go year by year and pick at least one movie that I thought was totally overhyped. But the first movie I thought of was a movie that, despite the fact that it has worldwide appeal and that everyone knows about it and everyone's looking forward to it, it still needed to be advertised like nobody's business in the lead up to its release, and that's Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Now, I have my issues with the movie. I don't think it's a great movie. It's a good movie. It's a fun movie. There's things that I really like about it, things that maybe I don't like as much, but it certainly isn't as bad as Batman and Robin. Nevertheless, it seemed astoundingly overhyped to me. You know, there was advertising for it everywhere, all the product tie-ins, and of course there isn't any actual product placement in any Star Wars movie because it doesn't take place on Earth. You can't advertise products for Mattel and what have you, and Duracell and Subway and Toyota in a Star Wars movie because the companies aren't supposed to exist there. So all the marketing, the consumer impressions that are created not just by the posters and by the TV spots and by the internet ads and by the trailers and what have you, but by all the products everywhere you look that have the Star Wars logo or Darth Vader's face, or Kylo Ren's face in this case, plastered on them to raise awareness of the movie. My goodness, I got sick and tired of that movie before it even came out, really. And I was looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to more Star Wars movies, but we're going to get one of these every single December from now until the end of time, as long as Disney is a functioning corporation that releases movies. And I am really not pleased about the idea of there being an avalanche of Star Wars branding everywhere I look every single year from now on. However, I have been looking over the movies that are due to be released next year, and will soon be preparing my list of the 10 movies I'm most excited to see in 2017, and that just might include another Star Wars movie. These lists usually do. Thanks very much for watching. This is my little catch-up video. I'm going to be doing another video soon detailing the movies that I saw for the first time in August, because I'm way late on that as well. I hope you enjoyed this. Guys, Ian, Ryan, Michael, thank you very much for making your videos. I hope you found these fun. My video fun. I'll talk to you again real soon.